So here we are again. We are now into chapter 3. Chapter 3 is getting into the idea of communicating with consent. So it's a great thing to understand what consent is, and it's a whole other skill set to start to be able to actually do it in real life. One of the things I'm a really big proponent of is to make sure you've actually practiced ahead of time before engaging with a real live human one day. Because if our first time we ever try practicing saying some of these words out loud is with a human that we've never done this before on our own or in front of a mirror or anything, it can feel a lot harder. It can feel a lot weirder. And it's a really good idea to have a little bit of real life role play practice under your belt. So that's one of the things we're going to look at in this section here to start. So we're starting chapter 3, part 1, and this is consent. What does it look like? What does it sound like? So we're going to be exploring both verbal and nonverbal ways of looking for consent from a partner, and those same signals in when we give consent or don't give consent to a partner. Okay, so same thing. If you have your questions and terms log out in case you have some ideas or thoughts you want to jot down. And there's also your handout for this section is the Consent 101, what it looks like and sounds like, kind of a 2-page spot there to fill in your blanks on your own ideas, things that you're able to then kind of put it into your own words of what it might sound like. Or your own ideas of what it might look like. So the first thing we're going to look at is the difference between the ideas of verbal and nonverbal. They're also kind of used interchangeably with words like explicit and non-explicit. Explicit is referring to verbal. That's like really clear, yes, no kind of language. And non-explicit, nonverbal, that also refers to what we also may use in kind of common language called layman's terms, the idea of body language. Okay, so as we look at both, as we looked at in the other videos so far, we need those two things to match together. So we don't ideally want just one or just the other or have them be mixed signals to each other. We don't want the word yes, but the body is saying no. And we don't want even the body saying yes, but the words are saying no. It's still not okay unless they're both kind of equally on the same page with that enthusiastic yes that we're looking for. So as we sort of think about, as we look for those things in a partner, maybe the first thing we want to look at is also thinking about how do you ask for consent, right? There's sometimes a sense that it's going to be weird or awkward to do it, again, because we don't see it in the videos and the TV shows as much as we should. So how do we make it kind of still cool and sexy and, casual, but important that we're really paying close attention to this stuff? So there's sort of 4 different ways to ask when you kind of think a little bit about it. The very first one, the most obvious one, is, of course, to ask directly. Would you like to make out? How do you feel if I were to kiss you right now? Can I touch you wherever, as you're kind of making those direct asks, and your partner then has a very clear sense of what you're asking for consent for. So asking directly, again, there's lots of ways to make that your own. You can kind of sort of use your own kind of slang. You can use your own kind of tone, your own sense of humor, or your own sort of kind of sexy energy if you've kind of figured out where you land with that stuff. So the ask directly is the most common one, of course. Another way would be to kind of make a suggestion and then check in. So the suggestion is like, I'd really like it if, if I could just touch you in this way, or if I could put my hands here, or if I could use my mouth in this way, or whatever you're kind of making a suggestion of what you want to do. And then you check in with your partner. You say, is that okay with you? Are you into that? Are you, is that cool? Is that hot? Is that, something you'd like? So you kind of breaking it up a little bit more. You're kind of, some people might find this a little more kind of passionate kind of talk. So if you're looking for that vibe, that might be more of a style you might want to try. The third way would be to kind of ask your partner for direction. So that kind of puts the ball in their court of, what would you like to do next? And see if they have a suggestion. And then you kind of get to give your consent in return to what they might suggest. So you might, say, this is really awesome. Like, I'm totally into you. This is hot. This is cool. This is whatever. And then, say, what are you thinking about? What do you maybe fantasize about doing with me or whatever? And see what the person says. Then see if you're on the same page with them. So you can kind of ask your partner for a bit of direction too. A fourth way would be, it's not necessarily a way as much as sort of something that you can kind of fit into all three other ones. It's sort of this idea of checking for consent as you go, obviously, as we've talked about before, but also sort of encouraging consent. So, again, if you're kind of starting to make a suggestion or you're asking, can I use my hands here, my mouth here, whatever you're doing, you're also kind of adding in that extra reassurance to your partner. This is kind of an amazing thing to do no matter where you're at in your sort of sexual journey and whether you're sort of just starting out or you're quite experienced, is to be able to tell your partner, I really want you to be comfortable. If anything I'm doing or saying is making you feel not so good or not okay, like I really want you to tell me that, because my most important thing I want out of this experience is for us to both really enjoy it, or for us to both really feel like we're into it. And if you're not, that's super important to me, right? So letting your partner know up front that you feel that way can be really powerful, can really increase that sense of safety between you, and really deepen your relationship. Again, whether you're casual or dating or whatever you are, it still can be a really kind of positive human experience between two people. You can also ask a partner ahead of time if there's anything that you should sort of watch out with them. Is there anything you know already that makes you uncomfortable? Some people maybe have experience with other partners or other life events that they may already say, like, yeah, such and such a thing is sort of off limits for me, or like, I know I'm really not ready to do whatever. So sometimes asking those questions ahead of time can already make you both feel more comfortable before you even start anything. Okay. So lots of different ways you can ask. You can mix and match some of those things together. But the really big thing to take away here is you have to use your words. Really emphasizing to not rely on what we've seen in the movies and TV as how it's supposed to go. Okay. So then we can kind of think about what are these signs? So let's start again with the verbal signs of yes, of consent, of enthusiastic, I'm into this, we're on the same page, woohoo, kind of feeling. So that would be your, yes words, like yes, sure, awesome, great, totally, whatever. And again, watching that those facial expressions are matching, the body language is matching. We'll talk more about that too. Saying things like, I thought you'd never ask, or, I was thinking I was just going to ask you the same thing, or, those, again, language that's making that connection of, yes, we are in the same place with this. Now, verbal non-consent, so someone saying no, obviously you're going to get clear words sometimes like no, or no thanks, or I'm not interested. That's really not something I want, right? See the face just changing as you're kind of getting into these no signals. Now, you may also get some verbal signs that aren't going to be as clear and that you still have to listen to. So if it's not one of those, yes, sure, totally great, aha, woo, kind of things, anything that it doesn't have to be like the word no, it can just be an or a silence or a hesitation. Any of those verbal indicators are actually signs of no. Unless it's enthusiastic yes, we count it as a no. And if you're ever not sure, like, was that enthusiastic enough? Check again, right? Have a party, ask twice. It's fine. Like, if someone gets mad for you asking them twice, something you may have other concerns you want to talk about in your relationship with that person. If someone's upset with you for asking them for consent, that would be a bit strange, and that might need a separate conversation on its own. Okay. Okay. So then signs of nonverbal consent. So again, the positive, enthusiastic, you're going to get, so bodies sort of facing towards each other. If your shoulders are open, kind of open towards each other, that can be a bit of an indicator. If you've got sort of smiling, if you've got sort of good eye contact, if you've got, sometimes those sort of positive affect of laughing and giggling can be signs. Remember, these are all very contingent and they rely on the words matching. So you might get smiling, laughing, giggling, but, I don't know. I'm not sure. So you might get some of those same body language signals of yes, but if the words aren't completely matching, we're still in the no. We got to be a lot clearer about that we're on the same page here still. Smiling, leaning in, right, pulling towards, stroking, squeezing, any of those types of body signals that are already going, pressing against. You might get some moans in there. You might get some noises that are sounding kind of like positive, like, yay, whatever, those types of things. Now, non-consent, so signs that things are not going so well, that things should be stopped and checked in, would be, again, pulling back, body turning away. Okay, so if your partner is sort of, pushing a little bit for, a little space, or they kind of, head comes back, eyes are looking down or away, or they look past you, maybe they're, checking their phone a lot or trying to check their watch, or they're looking out the door or looking for their friend, looking a little bit nervous, right? Those might all be signs that someone's not feeling comfortable. So you'd really want to, again, go back to the explicit verbal signs of what's going on there. Obviously, stopping movement altogether can be, and we'll talk about this in part 2 of this chapter, but if someone kind of just is a little bit like limp, or just like kind of feels like their body's moving, but there's no enthusiasm to it, it's kind of slowed down, and it's kind of, there's no pulling in, there's no kind of engaging, then that can also be a bad sign. And we'll talk about why in the next part. So yeah, nonverbal, non-consent, those are important things to look at. The really important thing here to notice is anything around hesitation, anything around or I don't know. Even if you're getting giggling, smiling, you might even still get the playful, whatever. We're still not moving forward. We're still not touching a person. We're still not engaging physically with them until we're really all clear on the same page. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about, and we're going to expand on this in the next part, in the next video, is the reason why expecting this strong, clear no if someone's not interested doesn't always work and isn't actually the way our bodies and brains always work. We're going to look at next. So that's a really important concept. And if one of the biggest things you can take away from this whole video series, I'm really passionate about this stuff, so I hope you're really excited to learn about it too. We're going to turn to that in the next videos. So go ahead and fill in some of those ideas, okay? Ways to ask. What does it sound like? What does it look like? Yes, no, and sort of put some into your own words. Give it a try. And the idea would be that you actually practice saying some of them out loud. We'll look at that, I think, as we go in the next couple of videos too. But start thinking about imagining using your words, doing some of these things, because that can be a good starting place too. All right, I'll see you right around the bend in chapter 3 and part 2.